People
I
have
think
that sense.
People get bogged down in the kind of propositional approach to belief, as though one is looking at scientific propositions. But I don't think that's what spirituality is about at all. It's about what you put at the centre of your universe, as it were. Sometimes, I think I can get this across by... sometimes people will say to me, well, is Buddha a god? You know, and I'll tend to say, well, it doesn't really matter whether Buddha's a god or not, but it does matter whether your god is a Buddha, you see. Because everybody has a god of some sort, even if it's money or nationalism or whatever it is. But what matters is what you put there at the core of your sort of spiritual universe, what you orbit around. What are the qualities of that? Does that have the qualities of a Buddha? Is it wise, compassionate, kind? Or is it something that's pernicious, that's punitive, that's exclusivist, that's unkind? That makes a huge difference, what people put there.
And that seems to be what's happening in society more and more. People are moving towards a more and more materialistic society.
Yes.
And yet that's not sustainable anyway on the level of the actual physical. It's not sustainable.
Yes, they say that they don't worship, but they do worship. They worship greed. They worship shopping. They worship, you know.
Well, in Buddhist terms, I mean, this is really just an expression of people's fear.
Yeah.
You know, I think
so
people...
explain that a bit more.
Well, I think the core of Buddhist teaching is that life is uncertain. You know, Buddhism talks a lot about suffering, about impermanence, things like that. And you can take this in a very negative sort of way.
Disease, old age and death.
That's right, yes. And, you know, these were the triggers to the Buddha's spiritual path. But I think what Buddhism says is that this is a spiritual opportunity, that facing the reality of our lives is actually the source of our spiritual strength, but that actually what most people do is that they, instead of facing that and instead of drawing the strength that comes from that recognition of our existential position, they run away into greed, hate and delusion.
So it's a reaction.
That's right, yes. And I mean, most of the Buddhist teachings are actually about the ways in which we construct a whole lot of defences against the knowledge of our position, and that either happens in very broad terms through consumption, through greed, through acquisition, materialism, all that sort of thing, or through hate, through war, through cutting off people, through saying this is not me, you're different from me, through putting the barriers down. And so, you know, greed and hate, these are the ways in which people create defence against their spiritual nature. And yet the spiritual nature still has a way of coming through to us, I think. So I think in modern society we see both things. Yeah. We see a build-up of the defences, we see a lot of fear around. And, you know, I think the world is in a state where there's a lot of reason to be afraid, not just on the individual level, but on the collective level. You know, we're very much up against our boundaries and against the possibility of complete destruction. And also, so in response to that, we're building up materialism and hatred and all those sort of bad things. But also, you know, I think this undercurrent that goes on of the spiritual nature, you can see it bubbling away and you see it surfacing from time to time, and you see people expressing very profound spiritual truths as well.
It's always calling to you.
That's right, yes.
Yeah, that's right. It's always calling, and sometimes... You mentioned about listening earlier. We don't listen to ourselves, do we?
Don't listen.
We're kind of in this reaction, and we're going out in the world and being busy trying to find happiness and filling our holes, and actually the source is back here.
Well, maybe we don't listen to the world. Maybe we don't listen to the truth that's beyond the illusion that we're creating around ourselves.
And listening is very important. You know, there's a great power in silence. If you create the space. You know. And in a way, equally, you've got to see your own darkness to let the light in. You know, the light comes in through the cracks.
Right, and that's in itself a very big subject, but we're going to have to come to a close. We could go on for a long time. But thank you very much, both of you, for coming along.
Thank you.
As I was saying at the beginning of the programme, they're very prolific with their books. They've written 12 books between them. Here's some more here. Zen Therapy by David. Guild, a new book by Caroline. The Other Buddhism, I could go on forever, but anyway, here's a few of their books. Thank you again for coming in, and thank you very much for watching Conscious TV, and hopefully we'll see you again very soon. Goodbye.